Well, we're often told to detach from the outcome of things, but let's talk about detaching from the old state of what we used to operate in. Okay, so I want to share a story with you guys pretty briefly. For any of you who are new to the channel, or any of you who just, I don't know, for my OGs, you already know. Damn, this smells so. Woo, it's gone, baby. Look at that. I'm sorry. Let me get back into it. But for those of you who know, I did share a story before when I used to talk about like how I used to get bullied and how I was treated and things like that. So I don't want to get too into that, but I am gonna say like I am gonna talk about how what I've noticed over the years of the things that I used to see within myself. When I was younger, I used to think that I was very ugly. I didn't like myself. I didn't like the way I looked. I just thought I was just, it was bad. And I didn't realize this because Neville talked about how he was talking about how, okay, yeah, how when we have these toxic relationships with individuals, it's really due to the assumptions that we have about ourselves. And it's not really based off of the person, but it's not really them. It's really a mirror just being reflected about how we feel and view ourselves. And it can start off as in childhood, which normally it starts off that way. It could start off just with how you've been growing up in your adolescence, as an adolescent, or like just over your years, just things like your experiences and things of that nature. So I wanted to talk about that because that's something that really just made me see things from a different perspective. I was always looking at things in a negative light. I always saw myself as a very bad person, right? I didn't really like who I was. And the reason of me not liking who I was, I used to project that same energy out there into the universe. And I didn't know that it would come back to me later on in life. And when I started to experience these things, I started to question, why do I have these failed relationships with people? But it's really not about the people, the individuals themselves, but it's just them only playing a role and mirroring back how I feel about me. For example, when you're not creating boundaries, I was always that person that didn't have boundaries. I never knew when to say no. I used to always say yes. I never knew when to, set a boundary for myself and say, hey, this is, I won't allow myself to be treated as of such. And because people saw how I didn't have boundaries, I didn't care about myself. I neglected myself. I lied to myself. These things were just only what people were just only showing me what I was doing to me, right? So the reason I wanted to talk about this was because if you really want better relationships, instead of you looking at the individual and you saying, okay, this person hurt me, this person cheated on me, or this person did this, I'm not saying that, okay, I'm not, and I don't want to get hate for this, but I'm not saying that it's your fault. I'm just saying that maybe there's an assumption that you have about yourself, like, how do you see yourself? How do you view you? Like, what are you doing to, like, show up for yourself and to love you? Because if you don't love yourself, how do you expect other people to love you and show up for you? How they might say, it takes a liar to know a liar. Exactly. If a person is lying constantly, then what are they going to meet? They're going to attract other liars. They're going to attract other people. It's like the same thing when Neville had spoke of the beggar, the thief, and the poor person. The only difference was their state of consciousness. So versus somebody who knows their worth, they're not going to allow anyone to mistreat them. They're not going to allow people to use them, to lie to them. They're going to set boundaries for themselves. They're going to know their worth, right? Because they love themselves, right? And because they love themselves, and this is something that, and how they see themselves, they hold themselves to a high standard. And because they hold themselves to a high standard, they're not going to allow the next person to manipulate them. and to gaslight them and or to come and go whenever they want to. In fact, they'll separate themselves naturally. And how they'll separate themselves, they don't even have to speak. They don't have to say anything. They just naturally just distance themselves from the toxic environment, right? Versus somebody who is always going to get in the ring and bicker back and forth with an individual and just make the problem worse than it already is. So I say this to say that detaching from the old state is you no longer operating from a place of lacking your self-value. You no longer being the person that doesn't set boundaries, that isn't self-aware, right? That isn't neglecting themselves, okay? That isn't attracting toxic relationships, toxic people. And I think this is a conversation that a lot of individuals aren't ready to have, because I had to tell myself, why is it? I had to ask myself, why is it that why was I attracting toxic people? And why isn't it that I can't really maintain or sustain the relationships in my life? Well, I had to look at myself. What was the relationship that I was having with myself? I had an on and off relationship with myself. One minute I'll be striving, I'll be loving me, I'll be putting me first. And then the next minute I don't. So it was like me attracting people that came and go. I would come love myself, half ass love myself. And then I would expect others to love me, but I wasn't giving that back to me. I wasn't doing that for me because I was too busy having this reckless relationship within me, having my own inner demons, my own negative inner beliefs about who I was and who I saw myself to be. That was just only a reflection, right? So I couldn't blame those other individuals. I couldn't look at them and say, okay, this person, yes, this person hurt me. This person said this. But what are things that I say about myself? What are things that I do to myself? And what are things that I'm not doing to myself? I'm not filling up my cup. I'm not doing that, right? And see, that's the problem. A lot of people don't want to say or admit and hold themselves accountable. Neville said it's the assumption. It's the assumption. When you assume something so much and you persist in it, whether it's negative or even if it's not fact yet, if you persist in it to the point where if it's negative or positive, it's going to manifest and it's going to create itself in your reality, and it's just going to reflect that back to you. So yes, it is very important to know how we treat ourselves is really important. It's vile. Right? Was that the right word? Was that the right word? Yes. It's necessary to remember that. That's why I wanted to talk about this. When you detach from that old state, right? You are no longer operating from that place of not being confident within who you are, not being self-aware, right? You are no longer operating from that place of low self-value. You have now decided to say, this is no longer the state that I'm operating at. Because one thing I've been noticing is, and this is work that I've been putting in too. One thing I have been noticing is that when we want a relationship, like with specific person, for example, it's not about the specific person. Even with the third party, it's not about the third party. It has nothing to do with the specific person. It has nothing to do with the third party. This is all about you. I was always looking at myself in a way of I would be the one that was never chosen, because and I even said that one time. I was like, I would say that all. Man, they don't want me. I was always the one that was saved last. But it was an assumption. It was a negative assumption that I had about myself. And because of that assumption, that's what I projected out into the universe. And then of course it was going to do what? It had no choice but to show me what I was thinking, what I was assuming, how I was feeling. No, this is not me saying that it's your fault that you got cheated on, or that it's your fault that you went through a situation, your friendship, you had a friend and, you guys are no longer friends. It's not me saying that it's your fault. What I'm saying is that we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, how am I operating? Really? Toxicity knows toxicity. There's no way you can tell me that a toxic person is going to attract a positive person who is not toxic. That makes no sense, right? So this really stood out to me because I had to think. I said, damn. I told myself I had to write it out. And I had to journal, because I was journaling. I woke up, I spent most of my day, I was sleeping. And I woke up and I was journaling. And I was like, damn, this shit really hit me, because now I'm starting to see, and I'm more self-aware, because there's certain actions and things that I do and things that I have said that have pushed other people away, or have put me in situations because of how I'm seeing myself, okay? Gossiping, talking too damn much, telling my business, things of that nature. Those are things that I'm working on as of right now, because this is where I have to be transparent with you guys. This is not me coming onto this platform BSing you. No, I am still growing. I am still actively learning, and I am still young. Being at the age that I am now, but I'm able to know that I am self-aware of these things. But now I know what to do, not to partake in energy like that, because that is not what God would do. That is not who God is. God does not gossip. God does not partake in foolishness. God does not partake in things that are not of worldly events. I want to say of worldly events. That's not what God does. God is knowing. God is confident. God is all powerful, right? So if I'm going to operate from a place of a new state, and operate from a place of wholeness, and operate from a place of being humble and being more honest and truthful with myself, then I must make sure that I'm taking those steps. So what I decided to do was I decided to actually talk to ChatGPT. I've been talking a lot to ChatGPT, and I'm actually going to make a video. I've been talking a lot to ChatGPT about ways that I can change and reprogram my subconscious beliefs to detach from the old state of what I used to operate in, the old state of lack, the old state of feeling like I wasn't enough, the old state of feeling like I'm not chosen, or that relationships, I'm not able to sustain or have relationships, or the operate from that place of not feeling as if though I'm a good friend, because I used to tell myself that a lot, that I wasn't a good friend. And that then later on became my habit, because I wasn't acting as a good friend. I was fake. I was fake as fuck. I was fake, okay? So, but see, here's my thing. The reason I'm telling you guys this is because I don't want you guys to make the same mistakes that I did. And I want you to know that from my own personal experiences and things that I am living through in my everyday life, I want to be able to come onto my platform, be able to share this and be very open with my audience, rather than trying to hide behind a veil. I'm not going to hide who I am. I'm going to come on here and tell you that, yes, Alizé is still actively working on these things. And these are things that I've actually come to a point where I said, well, this is what happens. This is how relationships end up not working out, or I end up attracting toxicity, or they're mirroring just the same. People are mirroring the things that I've assumed over the years. So I no longer want to attach myself to the old story. I want to see myself in a new light, see myself as someone who is confident, see myself as someone who is knowing, who is trustworthy, see myself as someone who can maintain and sustain relationships, and as being chosen, and always being the person where, being beautiful even, because I did say in my last, when I was telling y'all about that, but like seeing myself as being on radiating that godly energy, right? And just not needing the validation from other people outside of me, because it was always me having to, and I'm still working through this too, having to always feel needed. And I've always wanted to like be like, oh, if I'm not needed, then what am I worth? But really, why don't I just turn back and just give that to myself? So I feel like that's what Neville, when he was talking about like when he was talking about relationships and just completely detaching from the old state of who you were, instead of you having to detach physically from the actual relationship itself, you detach mentally by changing your assumption of how you view yourself. Therefore, you won't have to keep attracting or keep recreating, in his, not attracting, but recreating the same story and having those same patterns live out in your everyday life. So it's important that we remember, if we are, if this is something that we want to do, of course, when you have doubts, there's going to be doubts, there's going to be, you know, and I'm going to take a step, and sorry, I'm talking fast. I'm going to show you guys step by step of things that I do, and on my next video that I post out, take you step by step on things that I do and things that I'm doing in my everyday life in order to become, in order to hold myself in this new state, in order to remember, because I'm being honest with myself. This isn't just me going on and just saying, flipping my thoughts. No, this is me getting to the root of the problem and saying that I have to hold myself accountable, because yes, baby, I'm the problem. But see, a lot of us are not ready to have that conversation. Like, I remember my old friend asked me, why do you keep allowing people to come in and come back? Because I didn't set that boundary. Because for me, it was like, when I was talking, I think I made this in my last video. A lot of people are afraid to let go of toxic relationships because they're afraid of being alone. They don't want to be alone. They claim that, no, I'm good being alone, but really no, because if, and not even just only not being alone, you don't truly love yourself if you are allowing the same thing over and over again. If you know that this is not the type of love that you want to experience, whether it's in a friendship, a relationship, if you know that this is something you don't want to experience, so why do you keep allowing yourself to do this? And even if people are not giving you the attention, even if people are not giving you the validation, and even if people are not praising you, whatever, that's not going to matter to you, because you're no longer operating from that place of lack. You're no longer operating from a place of not feeling good enough. You know that you're good enough. You don't need to answer text messages. You don't need to answer calls. And even with your specific person is not perfect. They fuck up too. So at the end of the day, the person that you're putting on a pedestal isn't even putting you on a pedestal. You're thinking that this person is better than you, but in reality, the person is not even better than you. No one is better than anybody. Let's just get that out the way. We're all spiritual beings going through a human experience. We are all making mistakes and messing up each and every day. And because we're doing that, we do this thing where we want somebody, we idolize this individual, and I do, because I've done it multiple times, guys. I'm telling you, I did it with my ex Jocelyn. Okay, it was multiple times. So literally, we are idolizing these people, we're idolizing these individuals, and we're thinking that they are the prize. They are not the prize. You are the prize. You're beautiful. You're unique. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're amazing. Nobody knows what you've been through. Nobody has walked in your shoes. Nobody knows how you feel. Nobody knows what you're feeling when you come home after a long day at work. And I'm talking to my men too, because men need to be uplifted, especially our Black brothers. They need to be uplifted, because men's health matter as well as women's health too. I'm speaking for y'all as well. You okay? Don't put these people on a pedestal. Don't put this specific person on this pedestal where they're just like, you're reaching up and you're like, oh my God, I can't touch them. Take them off. Take them off. Take the rest of the world off. Okay? This is similar to my last video when I was talking about people have to earn a chance to be within your space. They have to earn the privilege. So when you're detach from the old story. You're no longer that person who does not set boundaries. You're no longer that person who does not see yourself in a good light. You hold yourself up to a high standard because you expect more from yourself, and you should. And when you start to give that to you, when you walk into a room, you don't need to speak. You command it. When people look at you, they look at you because they know you that nigga. They look at you because they know you're that woman. They look at you because they know they can't touch you. But it's not to say that you're better than anyone. It's just to say, baby, I know who I am. I value myself. I don't need the attention from other people. I don't need all this around me. I don't need that validation, because that validation is only good for so long. And even if a person compliments you, you'll say, thank you, I appreciate it. Why you think they think, like when you hear some men be like, oh, you compliment a woman and they be like, oh, she acting stuck up. It's not that she acting stuck up. She's heard it. Come with something different. You know what I'm saying? Or you could just take a step back and apply the law of assumption. But no, seriously. So this is something that really changed me. And I was so inspired to speak about this because I was like, damn, this is something that I'm actively going through. Like being that person that's always either gossiping and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm a funny person, I'm cool. But I don't want to see or be that person, especially being a content creator. I have to be honest with my audience and let y'all know, like, bro, I'm still making mistakes. I'm still learning about me, still being self-aware of my own actions, because my actions are going to affect others. They're going to affect others as well as myself. If I can't see myself, if I can't love myself and value me, then how can I expect somebody else to give me the same thing in return? I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Peace.